All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is All Signs Point to the End. And pretty much I kind of wanted to do a lesson based off of what's going to bring the end, which, I mean, it's a lot of different things, but the main thing is prophecy. And one of the main prophecies, which is very heavy, that one of the main prophecies that's going to bring this whole system down is the prophecy of the missiles. And that's very heavy because when you understand the scriptures, when you understand the characters in the Bible, and you understand who they are today, you could see plainly on the world scene the end approaching. And one thing that the Lord did with this devil Esau was he gave them a technology, or the technology of the missiles, that would make them to puff against people, against nations, and brag and boast of how they're the greatest military and how they'll stomp people out and no one can stand up to them, which is prophecy. Because when you read about the great red dragon, it says who was able to make war with the beast. The beast is NATO and the EU, which America is a part of that. America would be like the head of all of that, EU, NATO, and everything else that they have going on as a unit. Because although when they came together to set up those unions and set up those groups, it was supposed to be equal say from each person. But when it comes down to decision making, Esau in America trumps everybody else. They trump all of the other nations. They don't they don't use equal say or equal voting rights or equal, okay, well, let's all put in our suggestions and then we'll come up and find out what the best suggestion is, and we'll base our decision based off of collectively we'll base our decision off of, everything that everyone said. No, America has the last say in every decision out there. When we read the book of Revelation 17 and 18, it says, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And what are the kings of the earth? All other nations. What is this woman? Well, the first verse calls her on down. It calls her a harlot. Who is that harlot? America. America has all different nations coming over here. They call this place a great melting pot. And ever since the inception of America, since her youth, as the scriptures say, they've been immersed in wickedness, in witchcraft, and in casting a spell upon the world. Because remember, once the beast the deadly wound was healed, it says that the world wandered after the beast. And all nations at one time were caught under the spell of America, including the elect. We were all caught up under that web to a certain degree. Some brothers less than others, some brothers more than others, and sisters, so on and so forth. But ultimately, as Yahweh Shai said, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free or set you free. And pretty much this is the only way to be released from the clutches of America and from the deception that's going on, is to be released from the clutches of it by Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai through the Holy Spirit and Rakha Kodash, to tap into the individual elect Israelite spirit and free them from the bondage of this oppressive system. All right, so it says once again, and the woman which I saw is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So America is the one that's governing in the head, and that's prophecy. And even when you go and you do the research and you look at the decision making and all of that, America's decision is what stands. And that's going to be one of the things that causes these nations to hate the whore and shoot their missiles upon their own ally. Why? Because it's the Most High's purpose. This is what he wants. This is what he's going to push, and this is what's going to happen. So when we go to Psalm 17, and I'll start at verse 8. This is a prayer of King David. All right, and he's praying to the Lord. One thing to keep in mind is when King David was on the scene back in, let's say, roughly 2000 BC, little after that, I believe it was, no, actually, I'm sorry, about 1000 BC or so, somewhere around there. I had to go back. I haven't gone over that in a while, but around, let's say roughly around 1000 BC, if I have my timetable correct. He was kicking him, Israel, Joab, all of the Israelites and them were kicking Esau's ass. So there was no need to fear Esau. But eventually there would come a point where they would break the yoke, which they did at one point to a certain degree. But when they broke that yoke, they really never got back up under that yoke. John Hyrcanus subjugated Esau, but just the Edomites in that area, and forcibly converted them to so-called Judaism. But as a whole, Esau was loose. That devil was loose. And at that time, Esau was, even though they were a threat, they really weren't a threat. So when we read scriptures like in Psalms, the 60th chapter, where it speaks about who will lead me into the strong city, who will lead me into Edom, it makes sense that it wasn't talking about back then, because why would you want to be delivered from somebody or be able to stand against somebody that's stronger than you when you have them subjugated? So it definitely wasn't speaking about back then. And we know that King David, not only was he a king, he was also a prophet. And he saw far off in the distance, in the future, that Esau would be in a position of power, way stronger than anything that we could stand against. And that's where the Lord has to come back and destroy him. So it says, Psalm 17 and 8, keep me as the apple of the eye, hide me under the shadow of thy wings. This is a representation of the truth, the covering of the truth, and also when the Lord destroys his place, the covering of the chariots. Then it goes on to say, from the wicked. Now the scriptures, you have many wicked people among all nations. You have Israel became more wicked than the major wicked people of the planet. But the Edomites, as a whole nation, these are the wicked. When we read Malachi, the first chapter, around the 4th verse, it speaks about that Esau is the borders of wickedness. So anywhere these devils are, that's where wickedness is. When they took over the planet during the time of the Greeks and multiplied and started to govern the world, it says wickedness multiplied. I'm just merely paraphrasing. So they are the wicked and the people, not just the man, the people against whom the Lord has indignation forever, which is righteous anger, righteous hatred. And he's going to bring these devils down spectacularly. All right. So it says, from the wicked that oppress me, from my deadly enemies who compass me about, and they compass us about. Yeah, even Yahweh Shai back 2,000 years ago, he said, dogs have compassed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. It says they are enclosed in their own fat, meaning that they are protected. They have everything. Remember in Psalm 73, it says they have more than heart can wish. With their mouth, they speak proudly. And there's not a nation more proud than Esau. Moab is up there. The so-called Chinese are up there with them. The Ammonites are up there with them. But the main proud people of the planet are the Edomites. This is why in Daniel the 7th chapter, it said that they had a great mouth. And pretty much they're boasting. And the further on these devils get, without being checked, without being chin checked, the more proud they become. It says, they have now compassed us in our steps. They have set their eyes bowing down to the earth, so much so they have control over the whole entire planet. They have their satellites everywhere. They have cameras everywhere. They have people on surveillance as if they were the Most High, be able to see everything everywhere, everybody in alleys and, dark areas, around corners, places where people, would least expect the camera to be. It's right there. And then they have the world filming everything, which gives them even more of an advantage to see what's going on, because they're trying to be like the Most High. It says, like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. And this is what they do. Right? It says, arise, O Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, disappoint him. And the Lord will disappoint their devices. Their devices is a representation of their agenda, which is known as the NWO, which is an acronym for a New World Order. What does this New World Order consist of? Well, it consists of the whole entire planet, the people on it, being servants and slaves to the very small, what they call the 1%, which are the international banking families of the world, which run all governments and run the world through their corporations. You have Vanguard, you have BlackRock, and I believe it's 4 other major ones that control everything else. So when you see so-called competition of this brand against that brand, this particular, company is going against that particular company, they're all controlled. You have something called controlled opposition. All right? Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down. And that's a key line right there. Cast him down. Why? Because they're exalted. Yahushua said, I seen Satan as lightning fall from heaven. That is a representation of Esau's military, his weaponry, his jets, helicopters, drones being destroyed and actually falling from the heaven, from the skies, when Yahushua comes back. And Yahushua saw it. The Apostle John saw it. All of the prophets saw this. They saw the calamities of the end, and they saw the very end. This is why a lot of them sometimes got sick, they fainted. They were in horror of the devastation that is coming. Right? It says, arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So King David was not speaking about back then, because back then they had the Edomites subjugated. It was talking about a future prophecy. And we're in the times of that future prophecy. And from the time that America was created to the time that they established themselves as a nation, conquered Gad, Reuben, Issachar, and the other tribes, and amassed this great army, and got, in touch with the technology that we see today. Because you could say that even though nuclear missiles is a new weapon, you could say those regular nuclear missiles, the big nukes, that's passé, that's old news. Because now they graduated to the hypersonic missiles. They've graduated to other types of nuclear missiles, and they're using those missiles right now for practice, target practice, puffing at each other. And America can't bully these nations like it does, because once this place is destroyed, that's when Prophet Jeremiah saw how was the hammer of the old earth cut off. Because the technology that you were given, the Lord is going to use that same technology and blessing that you were given to bring about your demise and bring about your judgment. That's how terrible the Most High is. He blessed these devils to wield the sword, take peace from the earth, puff at nations, get everything in their grasp, and then use that same technology, that same sword to cut their ass and cut them down. Wow. From men which are thy hand, right? Because these devils are the sword of the Lord. And attached to that is what? Their blessing, which is what? The sword. which an extension of the sword would be the guns, the ammunition, the weaponry of Esau. But ultimately, the what? The missiles. Excuse me. It says, from men of the world. From men which are the hand, O Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasure, because they have everything. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. Yeah, because they have what you call generational wealth going way back. All the way back to the Renaissance period. Jake ain't got shit. The only thing you passing on in these times, for the most part, not everybody, you have exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians pretty much pass on debt, hard times, the curses to their children and children's children. Now, the technology of the missiles, which began roughly around the 1940s into the 1950s, they were doing a lot of test runs. One major name is Robert P. Oppenheimer, I think his middle initial is. But Robert Oppenheimer, which was a scientist, and there's other titles that he has. I don't know all of his titles, but he was one of the main, or he was like the head or the leader of creating what would become believed that was an atomic bomb. All right. And during that time when he was creating this is around the time of roughly around World War II. And what happened during World War II, when they took down the Germans, when they finally subjugated the Germans, half of the scientists that they had went to Russia, and half of the scientists came over here to the Americas. And I believe that was called the Manhattan Project. And in that project, what they did was they worked single-handedly as a unit to create a bomb that they could drop to stop nations in their tracks from pretty much rebelling against them. And these scientists would be known as the modern, weapons builders, okay? Because warfare changed, warfare changed, and the weapon makers changed, even though they're the same people. Back then you had something known as a smith. All right, so what is a smith? A smith is someone that works in metal, okay? And that person that worked in metal, they would make horseshoes, they would make, different things that you may need. You may need a chef's knife or something like that, for cooking and cutting up vegetables and meats and all that. They would make many different things out of metals. But one thing they would also make would be weapons. They would make shields. They would make helmets. They would make coats of mail. Now, if you don't know what a coat of mail is, just type it in and you'll see a picture of a coat of mail, which is pretty much a bunch of like little rings of metal, strapped to each other so tight that if something was to hit you, right, it would break it would break it or stop it from killing you. It might wound you or whatever, but it would stop it from killing you. Something similar to a bulletproof vest, but this was an ancient bulletproof vest, okay? So they would make spears, they would make darts, they would make arrows, they would make all different types of weapons. But then when the scientists started working on weaponry, they started to fuse, split atoms and fuse different things together, different elements together to create ultimately what would be known as the missiles, all right? Which is an extension of Esau's blessing, which is the sword. So in Isaiah 54:16, it says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire." It says, "And that bringeth forth an instrument for his work." And what is that instrument in this case? Those nuclear missiles. Whether they're the regular nukes, ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missiles, whether they're the hypersonic missiles, or in whatever fashion they come. The main thing we're focused on today is the technology of the nuclear missiles, which is what's going to bring about the destruction of Esau's empire and what the scriptures call the lake of fire, which is not no fucking place you go burn in hell forever. It's America being totally engulfed in flames from east to west and from north to south. And everything inside of that land is going to be burnt up. And it's going to, from a bird's eye view, it's going to look like a lake that's burning with fire. So it says, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work." And what is that instrument? The missile. That's going to be carrying that fire from one end of the world to the other. It says, "And I have created the waster to destroy." What is the waster? The waster would be the nuclear missiles. Now, when we go to the same book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter, right, and we're going to go to the 5th verse, but I want to pull up another precept that came to mind, and Lord's will we could touch on this. Let's see where we could start at on this one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So let's go back to Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. Right? Because we read about the smith. We read about him blowing the coals in the fire, bringing forth an instrument for his work, and that the Lord created the waster to destroy it. Well, the reason why the Lord allowed Esau to get that technology was because the old world, during the time of Noah and his sons and their wives, was destroyed by water, by the flood. This time the Lord said that the lake of fire would be the second death. All right? So when we read Isaiah 9 and 5, it says, "For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise." Because all wars from the beginning of creation, when men started the battle and war against each other, was fought in one fashion. It wasn't until about the 17 into the 1800s when they started to, using the technology of guns and all of that stuff, that warfare started changing. Because you would have two opposing forces, right? Two kings or two sides, and there would be a dispute. And if they couldn't come to a conclusion, they would send their military out to fight, and it would be out there in the battlefield. This is why when you watch movies like Gladiator, movies like 300, movies like Braveheart and things of that nature, they show you ancient warfare where men would go out on the field. One will be on one side, one will be on the other side, and then they'll go and they'll meet in the center and they'll fight. They'll have shields, they'll have spears and swords, and you hear the clanking and the yelling of the warriors, the adrenaline kicking. You'll see arms and legs flying, you see blood skeeting everywhere, and that's how ancient warfare was fought. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise. See, it's so much going on that it's confusion, it's chaos. It says, "And garments rolled in blood," because you'll have either blood from the enemy or your own blood on your garments. And this is why the scriptures speak about, casting, that those garments will be cast away, or like the garments of him that was slain or something like that. But it says, but this, meaning this particular war, this warfare that's coming, shall be with burning and fuel of fire. So what's going to create that? The missiles. That the Lord just so happened to give these modern day scientists, which are the modern day smiths, to create a weapon so powerful that it would be able to rain fire from heaven. And that is one of the blessings and one of the things that caused the world to be afraid of Esau here in America when they dropped those bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But the thing about it that they don't really speak about is that there were many different bombs dropped all over Japan, in Tokyo and the surrounding areas, and all those different cities. But the devastating power of those they didn't have the devastating power as Fat Man and Little Man that they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. All right, and as a footnote, I'm not sure if it was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Once the bombs hit and destroyed everything, right? There were two things that survived that blast, and I believe there were two ginseng trees. Everything else around it was destroyed, but those two I believe it was ginseng trees, if I'm not mistaken. Brothers can fact check that. Those two ginseng trees, I believe they were not affected from the blast, from the radiation. So that prompted Esau to do research, and they found out that those two trees had healing properties that would not, allow, it would fight against radiation. I don't know all the particulars about it, but that was heavy. That's just a little footnote. So after that, that's when the world was really, really afraid of Esau. And that's when he really his pride started even going through the roof. Because now they had a technology with them to where they can destroy and annihilate anybody off the planet that defied them. Okay? So now, let's go from there to the book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 12. Because one thing to note is that what's going to bring about this devastation, this destruction, is of these missiles is something called World War III in the scriptures. All right, and the scriptures speak about it and call it that, but not. It doesn't say the word war, but it says the word woe. Revelation 8:13 says, "And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe." So notice it said it 3 times. Because before we read that, let's go to the book of Ezekiel, right? Chapter 2 and verse 9. I start at 8. It says, "But thou, son of man, hear what I say unto thee. Be not thou rebellious like that rebellious house. Open thy mouth and eat that I give thee." And this is the job of the prophets. That's why you got a lot of Israelites out here that's confused, because the men that are teachers are not prophets. And they're not sent. I mean, they are sent to a certain degree, but you have false prophets, you have real prophets, and they're not getting the minds of the people of Israel, the Israelites, ready for what's coming. But anyway, it says, "And when I looked, behold, an hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein." So what is this roll of the book? This is talking about the Bible. "And when he spread it before me, and he spread it before me, and it was written within and without." You can look at your Bible. Some Bibles will have like words etched out, or they might have a cross, on the outside, or they might say Holy Bible or KJV or something like that. It says, "And it was written within and without." So inside you have the words of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Outside you might have, what particular translation it is, and so on and so forth, right? It says, "And there was written therein," meaning within the pages, what was written in there are lamentations and mourning and woe. So destruction. The bonsai tree that survived the bombing of Hiroshima. Okay, I have to go back and look at it. I thought they were ginseng trees, but the brother just said bonsai tree. So I had to go back and do the research again, Lord's will. So within the book was written lamentations and mourning and woe. It was 2 trees. I remember it was 2 trees when I was doing the research. So lamentations and mourning and woe, and that's destruction, and that is the job of the prophet to do, to go and proclaim these things to the particular nation that is in power at the time, which we're doing, that their empire has come to an end. Jeremiah 28:8. "The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence." So why would it be different today when Yahweh Shai said that, you shall hear wars and rumors of wars, right? So going back to Uh, Revelation, Salakia. Let's go to Revelation chapter 8 and verse 13 again. It says, "And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe." Now notice it said it 3 times. Why? Because that represented World War One, World War Two, and World War Three, which those world wars, would usher in the end of the world. Now, World War One was fought in the early 1900s. I believe it was around 1914 to 1919. You had World War II that was fought, I believe it started in 1939, if I'm not mistaken, ended in 44 or something like that. You know, you could fact check it. And right now, as we speak, we're in the midst of World War III, the beginning stages of it. You know, so it says, "To the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound." Because at this time, when he had this revelation, which was around 96 AD, this wasn't happening, but it happened in another dimension in the vision that he saw, right? So when we go to the 9th chapter and the 12th verse, it says, "One woe is past," which is World War One, "and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter." So you have World War One, World War Two, and World War Three. Now when we go to Revelation 11 and 14, it says, "The second woe is past," which is World War II, "and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." See? So now we're in the midst of the third woe coming quickly. So going back to Revelation 9 and 12, and one woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes hereafter. "And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before the Most High, saying to the 6th angel, which had the trumpet, Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates." So the Euphrates River, which is still called that to this very day, you actually have angels, 4 angels that are situated there. If the Lord was to open up people's spiritual eyes, they will be able to see 4 giant angels standing in that area, holding back the destruction. And what do the angels do? They work on the minds of men. They work on the minds of kings. They work on the minds of military men, so on and so forth, to stir certain things up. So right now, we're witnessing the Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, which another title for the Lord is the Lord of Hosts, Yahweh Tazabawath. We're witnessing him somewhat pulling back the angels a little bit, allowing certain things to get in there. Why? Because the stage is being set for the final battle, which is going to bring the ultimate destruction of Esau and the nations, which is World War III. So it says, saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, "Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates." And the 4 angels were loosed. So that means this is the time when the Lord completely removes the angels out of that situation and allows the wind, which represents the destruction, to happen, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. That right there is talking about America, which is going to be destroyed in an hour. All right, there's a particular day, there's a particular hour of a particular day of a particular month of a particular year that this place is going to be destroyed, and we're very close to that. It says, "For to slay the 3rd part of men." The 3rd part of men represents the Edomites. Why is that? Because when you go to the Bible, to the beginning, read with understanding, you have 3 classifications of men on the planet. You have the sons of God, which today would be known as the Israelites. You have the sons of men, which would be known as the other nations. And then you have the sons of the wicked, which back then, before the flood, were Cain and his descendants. After the flood is Esau and his descendants. The people against whom the Lord had indignation forever. The people of the Lord's curse. That's another scripture that cuts that bimbo. These are the Esau, the Edomites. It says Idumea. Edomites are the people of the Lord's curse. Not just the man, all of them. Last one of them. So going back to Revelation 9 and 16, it says, "And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them," because those missiles are also a military of the Most High. And then when it says 200,000, that's 200 million missiles. Now that doesn't mean that they have 200 million missiles exactly on the planet, but what you have within those missiles are warheads. And a lot of those missiles have multiple warheads. Okay, so collectively, when the Apostle John saw it, he didn't count them. 1, 2, 3, oh man, 100, 200,000. Wow, no. He said he heard the number of them. It was 200,000, which is 200 million. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, because the horse represents what? Power. That those missiles are an extension of Esau's power. It says, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire, because when the Apostle John saw them, he saw them like horses going to battle. Because when they shoot them, they're gonna be shot, and the Spirit of the Most High Yahweh is gonna be in those missiles and guide them, and they're gonna be guided like you have horses running into a battle. You know, you see many different movies like that, where you see people fighting on the battlefield, and they charging with horses. You have the cavalry and so on and so forth. You had back then you had those so-called barbarians, that they call barbarians, going to war with the Romans. You see the Romans on horseback. You see them on horseback. Attila the Hun and all. So that was what the Apostle John described this battle as. He saw all of these missiles coming, and they were arrayed like horses going to battle. It says, and of jacinth and brimstone, because brimstone represents what? The firepower that these missiles have. What is it? Fire and brimstone. All right. It says, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. Because what is a lion? What is one of the, besides the paw, what is another part of the lion's power? Is his mouth. And these missiles, when they come, they're going to be letting loose out of those warheads. They're going to be out of the tip of it, they're going to be letting out warheads. And that's the mouth opening up. And those missiles coming out would be like the teeth coming out and destroying everything in its path. When you read Joel, the 2nd chapter, it says that before them was as a Garden of Eden, and behind them a desolate wilderness. And that's going to bring, that's power, man. That's going to bring an annihilation and an end to everything that you see. Years ago, I used to picture, like when we drive in New York, I would picture, just walls of fire engulfing all of those buildings and all of that stuff, similar to what you see in the movie Terminator 2, Judgment Day. And that when that comes down, that's going to serve to magnify the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, his name and his son's name. Because it said that the loftiness of man will be bowed down in that day. And the Lord alone shall be exalted. All right, let me see where we at. That was Revelation 9 and 17. I got a couple of precepts that come to mind. Let me see if I can get both of them. Just bear with me. But let me see if I can find this one. Oh, man. I believe this is one of the ones that came to mind. It says Jeremiah 50 and 22, a sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? That's not the one. I know where it was now. It might be the 51st chapter. Both these chapters are dynamite. Let's see. All right, you know what? Let me see if this comes up like this, if it's too much. So like I'm just thinking out loud. All right, so should be able to find it. Right. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 25. The Lord had opened his armory. Matter of fact, let me just go to that. Oh, wow, wow. This is why the Lord said he set him in slippery places. Oh man, it was right there. That's why the Lord said he set Esau in slippery places. Jeremiah 50:22. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Yeah, because she was so great. In America, this is why the Lord calls America Babylon the Great. Because this place is great, right? Not in a good way, meaning big. And they have control and power over the whole earth. I have laid a snare for thee. What is a snare? A snare is a trap. That's what the Lord said. He set these devils in slippery places. Because it was too, what's the word? It was too, oh man, there's a word for it. In other words, they couldn't resist this great temptation of having this power, this military power, and taking shit from nations. You see? So the Lord said he laid a snare under them. Because they had this great power, they went and they went through the whole earth and pretty much took everybody's shit. But now that's going to turn back to bite him in the ass. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So you ain't fighting against men, you're fighting against the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai himself. So the Lord hath opened his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. Because that's how he's going to do away with America. That's how he's going to do away with the land of Israel today. And there's going to be certain other parts that may get hit, or however it may be. We'll see how it plays out when the Lord comes back. But definitely 100% of America and 100% of the land of Israel will be wiped off the planet. America will never be inhabited again. The land of Israel will be rebuilt. For this is the work of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the power of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. So this place is going to smoke. Lord is going to smoke your ass, Esau. Now let me see something. I want to just get one more. Ooh, wow. I got to read some of this. Because it goes hand in hand with what we were reading in Revelation 9. Joel 2:1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. And we're approaching that day. The stage is being set for that day. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. And what's going to bring that about? The nuclear missiles, the lasers from the chariots. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. So the Lord is comparing these missiles to a great people, an army. There have not been ever the like. There's never been this type of technology on the planet for warfare. Neither shall be any more after it. Why? Because they're going to shoot those missiles, and whatever weaponry Esau has left, we're going to go around the earth burning it with spiritual power. Even to the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, and nothing shall escape them, because they're going to devastate this whole land. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses. Did we not just read in the book of Revelation 9 how the Apostle John described them as horses going into battle? Being arrayed like a horse is arrayed in battle, because they used to put armor on horses back then. And that armor would be the steel plates and all of that the missiles have. Right? It says the appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. All right, so that's how they're coming, with great power And there will be great fearfulness of the people on the planet. Scriptures say there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Man's heart failing them for fear for the things that are coming upon the earth. Before their faces the people shall be much pained. Shall there be evil in the city and the Lord have not done it? Shall the trumpet be blown and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city and the Lord have not done it? All faces shall gather blackness. From what? From the great fear that's going to come upon them. And the fire. They shall run like mighty men. This is talking about the missiles. They shall climb the wall like men of war. They shall march everyone on his way, and they shall not break their ranks. And there's other scriptures that describe that. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk everyone in his path. Right? Because even when they hit it, let's say that they have, because they don't, the weapons defense system that they have is not going to work. Let's say even if Esau gets lucky and one of his missiles to defend America hits a nuclear missile, that nuclear missile is going to devour it and just keep going. Because the spirit of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, is going to be in those missiles. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. See? They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. This also goes hand in hand with Isaiah 24. It goes hand in hand with Revelation 16. How there's going to be a great earthquake. It says the heavens shall tremble. Yeah, because remember, Ezekiel it speaks about even the birds in the heavens are going to shake from this great vibration that the earth is going to be under from the missiles pelting down upon it. The sun and the moon shall be dark, because when the soot and the smoke go up, it's going to cover the sun and the moon for a certain period of time. It says, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Same deal. And the Lord Yahweh shall utter his voice before his army in battle array, which are the missiles. For his camp is very great, 200 million missiles. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? All right, now let's go back to Revelation. Right, back to Revelation chapter 9. And I believe we left off at verse 16. Right. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them, which is 200 million, the great army of the Lord. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths, which is what? The nuclear, the warheads, issued fire and smoke and brimstone. That's what's going to bring the great judgment. By these three was the third part of men killed. Why? Because Esau represents the third part of men. And it's their empire that's on top, ruling over everybody else. And it's their empire that's going to be taken down. It says, and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth, which are the warheads, and in their tails, which is the propelling system that propels them from one part of the earth to the other. It says, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, right? Because it's going to, when you see the missiles coming out the silo, they have the fire coming out from behind them. You know, like the tail of a serpent. It says, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. And those nuclear warheads was going to do the most damage, because those ICBMs are big as hell. And that big ass missile is nothing more than a propelling system just for a little bit on the top, which is the warhead. That's where the main power of hurting comes from. It says, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, meaning around the world that are still left, yet repented not of the works of their hands. Why? Because they're thinking, okay, well, that didn't work out how we imagined it, so now we have to rebuild. But guess what? That's when Yahweh Shai, the angels, the elect come back down. The men of the elect of the nation of Israel come back down and put all these devils in captivity. The nation, Esau and the nations in captivity, beginning with their top rulers. It says, you could read Psalms 149 chapter for that. Yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders. You got to remember, Esau is a war criminal. He's a fugitive on the run. And it ain't until Yahweh comes back, Yahweh Bashem Al-Shai comes back, that they're going to pay. They're going to continue to keep getting away with shit, or so they think, until the Lord brings forth the judgment. Remember, they got a long captivity, a lot to pay for. So keep on, adding to your tab, Esau. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. And the Lord is going to use those missiles to annihilate them. And the first part of that, the scriptures speak about the controversy of Zion. When you go back to Isaiah 34, there was just a scripture that just came to mind. Oh man, there was just a scripture that came to mind. Yes, and I'll leave you with this scripture. This is in the book of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 12. It says, "And this shall be the plague," which the missiles are also called plagues. You can read 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter, I believe it is. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord, Yahweh Bashem El-Shai, will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. See? This is all being done by our Father Yahweh, Bashem El-Shai, for all of the wickedness that these devils have done against us. It says, "Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth." What has the power to do that? The nuclear missiles, that fire from the nuclear missiles, where everything will be disintegrated. Just like they show you in many different movies. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, The Knowing, I forget exactly which one it's called, with Nicolas Cage. All right, and many other movies that they show you the destruction of the missiles flying. All right, and this it's because of what they did to the people of the Most High, the Israelites, us. Remember when we read Revelation 17, it says that the woman, had the blood of the saints on her and of the prophets. The Lord ain't gonna let that slide. That's why Yahweh Shai, when he comes back, he said he's gonna. The earth shall no more disclose her blood. I'm sorry, the earth, matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Isaiah chapter 26. And we'll end it there. Isaiah 26 and 20. Matter of fact, I started at 19. This is a message to the elect, the 19th verse. "Thy dead men shall live, together with my dead body shall they arise," right? Because you're going to have the ones that are in the grave that's going to rise, and you're going to have the ones that are on the earth that are still alive, that are part of the elect, that are going to rise to the chariots. "Awake and sing, ye that dwell in the dust, for thy dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers." What are the chambers? The chariots. And Yahweh is coming in one big, huge chariot. "And shut thy doors about thee," just like the ark of Noah. "Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast." See? And what is that indignation? The righteous anger of the Lord with those missiles, the fire from those missiles. "For behold, Yahweh, Bashem El-Shai, cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain." So you could keep on hiding the numbers. You keep on, killing and murdering and shedding the blood of the people of the Most High, but you're going to pay for every last bit of it. We don't know the extent of all the shit that you did. We only have an estimation based off of the numbers that are presented in history. So we don't know exactly, but the Most High see though. He sees everything. And he's gonna judge you for all the shit that you've done. So it's just a matter of time. Right now we're in the yep, payback is a biatch. That's right, brother. You know, so we're in the time of your judgment. We're in your sentencing stages. We're in the final stages of your you've been brought to court through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Shai by the prophets, by the Yahweh Bashem Shai through his prophets, you know, and you're about to pay dearly for all the shit that you've done. So it's just a matter of time. And we're very close. And the moment your bitch ass pushes that, you know, MOTB worldwide, that's when we're gonna see the fireworks really get hot. Shalom.